This is Wild on 7th, your favorite Wild podcast.
Did you guys see this? This is unbelievable.
What is that all about, Kinger?
Get in here for the real thing. Like, let's get weird.
Maybe I blacked out trying to figure out what was going on.
Doubt, worry, fear, because that's what we're breaking the mold on here.
Welcome to Wild on 7th, presented by Pilot Games. We're here until it's here.
All right, welcome back to Wild on 7th, your favorite Wild podcast. I'm Ryan Carter with my man John King here. We're brought to you by our friends at Pilot Games. Make sure when you're out enjoying your libations, which it sounds like some of our friends did, which we'll talk to later today at Hockey Day, Minnesota, we're able to enjoy some libations. When you go out, make sure you grab one of those tablets and play Pilot Games, their products, because when you do, your community wins. And it's a big week when it comes to communities and communities winning, because we just come off a Hockey Day in Shakopee. That community does a great job hosting. They pulled off a terrific day, and we love it when these local communities and their youth sports programs develop and turn into something. Shakopee has now turned into a good hockey club, and some of that is because of everybody's support with their e-tabs and Pilot Games. And so make sure when you're out, you grab one of those things, again, because when you do, your community wins. Kinger, how was your weekend? This is a big hockey weekend. The Wild have 2 games back-to-back. It's Hockey Day on Saturday, a lot of programming there, outdoor tournaments. I think north side of the cities, there's the Stanley Cup. There's some other outdoor games. I hear you were outside skating.
I love it.
Update.
Well, first of all, it's a hockey holiday, and I like that it started earlier. I'm sure you didn't, because you probably had to get in your car at 6 in the morning, but it gave me a little of the college game day feels, like because that day is just propaganda in the best way possible. Every ad is sort of about community hockey, the eye black. We got to talk about this kid from Hibbing, who's my new spirit animal. I hope they sell candles of him at some point with his picture. But it's just such a special day. And I like that they took the swing on Valley Fair. Pretty interesting way to do it. And it sounds like Brainerd's going to be at a racetrack in a couple years. So it's just a cool event. I also think it's a great TV event as well. Like, a lot of people make the pilgrimage every year, and that's great. But I tell you what, having that on all day, watching, women's college, a couple high school games, and then you run right into the Wild game, it's a hockey holiday. And it's a good reminder that community hockey is different in Minnesota, playing with your buddies the whole way up, not spending $30,000 and humping planes all around the country. It's pretty special what we have here. And I think that thing puts a big star on top of the tree every year. So congrats to Shakopee, and I'm happy the home team won as well. So I like that. It's a lot of work for those volunteers, and to get the W in the kind of the whatever would be center court was pretty great to see them beat Maple Grove.
Yeah, you like to see the team hold serve, right?
It's
Shakopee.
Like we saw it in White Bear.
I was unbiased. It's Shakopee Maple Grove, but it's just, I think, rewarding for the LOC and everybody else, and then the atmosphere at the place the vibe check after it all ends is way better when the home squad wins.
Absolutely, and all those people, it's almost like a second job. So they volunteer.
Oh, no doubt.
They're probably at
like
some
their first job for a year.
They're at some sports bar. Someone hands them a binder from the year before. They're telling their wife it's not going to be a big deal, and then they are consumed for a year. So somewhere in Shakopee, there's a few people with their feet up today. Congratulations to all the hard work you did.
Yeah, the LOC, a lot of credit to them, but there's also a lot that goes into it from the Minnesota Wild and from FanDuel Sports and the people that work there. A lot of people have to take on roles outside of their profession to be good and to be able to pull a day like that off. I mean, and it's simple. You look at a guy like Anthony LaPanta, who's there broadcasting a high school game in the morning, then he's got to beat feet to get over to the XL Energy Center to be able to call the Wild game that night. And Kevin Gorg, same thing. But and there are names behind the scenes.
Trevor Fleck was an absolute stud on the day. We had to do some stuff with him and answering his phone and moving stuff around. I mean, it was really a nice job by everybody.
And the list goes on and on and on. from producers to editors to people that put features together to the host, Jamie Hirsch and everybody in town there. There's a lot of people that have to take on roles that they're not accustomed to taking on that were terrific. And you bring it all together, and it's a great product. A quick couple of numbers. I saw this morning. I think nearly 4.5 million viewers at different times throughout the day for Hockey Day Minnesota. I mean, you think about that. That's amazing.
That's awesome.
I don't know, what's the population of Minnesota? Somewhere around 6 million, I think. So you have 4.5 million viewership. That's, for me, that's a huge number. Terrific, right?
Well, and it's the Yule log of community hockey. I mean, at some point during the day, you're watching some of it. Some people are mainlining the whole thing. Someone are taking the pilgrimage. But just as background noise, it just makes you feel warm, fuzzy.
You know what else I love? A couple elements to the show that are terrific. The live look-in on the coaches addressing the team in between periods.
So
You're
good.
in the trailer with them. Like, you got a sense of what it was like, the vibe in there, how the coach kind of runs the team. And I don't know, I thought that was great. I also love the interviews of the high school kids. Like, you could just see, like, it's pure joy on some of their faces, like when they get to talk about being able to play and what the day means to them.
And it's real. You know, they haven't had all the media training to say the same stuff. And yeah, the one coach was amazing. I forget which team, you'll know. So they had lost this game a couple years back, and he was so matter of fact in the trailer. He was like, "We're here. Is the game over?" And the team was like, "No." "Do we have to keep working?" "Yes." "Did we have the same lead last time and let it go?" "Yes." And he was that is cool.
That was Calvin Simon with Shakopee.
It was
that
so,
was almost like military like he addressed the team. He stayed like calm. They were all ready and ready to answer.
And when he got done, I was sitting with my buddy who got hurt playing hockey, and I was like, I'm ready to run through a wall right now. I mean, that was great to see inside the trailer like that. It's a hell of a deal. It's great.
Yeah, and for me, broadcasting the games, it's great too. Like, I think it's meaningful to the kids and their families, so like you want to get it right, and
Get their names right.
yeah, and tell their stories. So with that, I think we've got to talk about the games a little bit. So you've got the first game with Hibbing and Eden Prairie. I love this one because in some ways it's David versus Goliath. It's Eden Prairie, the big school, and they've got the Metro, they've got titles, and they've done it all, right? And then you've got Hibbing, smaller town, Hibbing Chisholm, want to get that right too. And they're just rink rats. Their coach calls them rink rats. That's why they're good. They've won at the bantam level, they've won at the peewee level, and they're good because they just love playing hockey.
And what's the guy's name?
Jace Campsela is the guy that is your spirit animal.
This guy. Okay, if you watch this game, if you were up early, his hair, first of all, I hope they make it to St. Paul because I got my eye on you. And then I think he's maybe 38 years old based on what he looked like. He also has he must have hurt his nose.
Yeah. So he's got he's got a great duster for being young, like huge mustache. He's got hair everywhere. Then he has like the plug.
He's got the plug in his nose the whole game. He looks like he drove to the rink in a Camaro. For sure, parts of the engine on his car are exposed. They're through the hood. I just want to eat Slim Jims with him. I want to get sleeveless undershirts. I don't know. I don't know. He was a man. He was everything anyone in Hibbing would want a young hockey player to be. Even Bob Dylan was probably smiling somewhere.
Yeah, the Simpson brothers were good in that game too for Hibbing Chisholm, Cole and Tate, and then on the back end, Ethan Sunval. I thought Rex Wally stole the show with a couple of
How about your name?
saves.
Just being called Wally was cool too.
Yeah. Well, he won the name also. Great. There's a couple great names. Rex Wally, that's an unbelievable name. Love that. And then the Eden Prairie side, Chase Clute, John Cleese, and Miko Brown. So that's their like second line, but their senior line, the big line. And I think you go back to this being meaningful for players. It looked meaningful for those guys. Like they were good. They turned it on. Cleese 2 assists, Clute 2 goals. Miko Brown, he got a goal, and again we got the live listen in, and the coach was like, "Hey, Miko from Finland to here. All we have to do is play outside," because he looked like Miko Koivu all of a sudden out there.
He's ready to take a sauna. That Clute is a honey badger too. Big kid, relentless on pucks. That's a tough out if you're playing that kid.
Yeah, those guys were great. Then Shakopee, another guy on the all-name team is Tristan Wasengesso. He had 1-1 in the game for Shakopee.
Can you say that again?
Wasengesso?
Yeah, that's good. And his first name's Tristan.
Yeah, that's right, man. I love the name. Then a couple of Coopers stood out too, Seegert and Simpson. Shakopee's got a good thing going. They've got some skilled guys, and I think they're going to be able to make some noise in March for sure. And then for Maple Grove, they're a younger team. They turned over a bunch of seniors last year. Their top line had some underclassmen, but Glendy was able to break through and score a goal. So good to see those guys. The score of that second game was 5-1 final. But
It seemed close.
It felt a lot closer than that.
Who was in the whites? The white jerseys.
Oh, Shakopee.
Those were sweet. I really like those. And hey, all name team. 2 thoughts on this. I've made an observation. If you're having young kids, it seems like if you can name your kid with the same initial as your last name, they're going to have more success at hockey. Like if it was Cullen Carter or Caleb Carter, like if you can double up on the initials, higher likelihood of breakthrough. And the best name in the state, I did a girls game. There is a goaltender on Lakeville name, and this is her name, Snow Banks. That's her actual name. I think it's Snowden Banks. But can you imagine that? You're cleaning the snow and putting it by the pipe, and you're a goalie, and your name is Snow Banks. That's her actual name.
That's unbelievable.
I don't know that.
When is it too late? When is it too late? Because I now have a thought.
You don't have any double initials, do you?
No, but I now have a thought when it comes to cool names. Like my aunt's name was Candace.
Yeah.
And she married a guy with the last name of Barr. So she goes by Candy. She went by
Candy Barr.
That became her name. So when is it too late? If you need to break through and it's not working, you might just need to find a way to get married real quick to somebody with a name that complements it.
Yeah, you should like if I were to so I think once the kid is
marriage for love things.
When the kid is responding to his name, you probably shouldn't change it at that point. It could be confusing, but like Riddle's kid is named Rory Riddle. High likelihood of success. He's either going to be a star hockey player or end up in a Gladiator sequel. I mean, I think if you can double up on the initials or marry for the front half, like if I married someone named Burger and I was Burger King, like that, like something like that, put the pieces together.
That makes sense.
I think it's worth thinking about. Every little bit helps.
We're off the rails. Let's get this back on the rails. Hey, there was an alumni game, really good alumni game on Friday night that kind of set things up. It was stacked. So it was the University of Minnesota Gophers alumni team versus
College All-Stars.
So Gophers had a ton of Hobie winners. Guys come out of the woodwork, Mike Crowley, Thomas Vanek, to name a few. I think Brian Bonin was part of the night too.
Bonin, you had Goligoski, Leopold, Paul Martin. They were stacked. And then the other team as well, a lot of players that just left the league, including Parisi and more, and Stalock backstopping them.
Yeah, so let's bring in we want to get a live check into how things went there. Let's bring Alex Stalock. He happens to have some chapped lips at the moment, so we may have to work through that. Al, how the lips doing?
Chapstick applied. Go ahead.
You got that chapstick on? You ready to chat the alumni game?
My youngest daughter's, my middle daughter's got my lips too. They just get they're so crunchy in the winter. It's brutal. She's applying chapstick nonstop. I hate chapstick though.
Is it because of the alumni game that they're so chapped? You're out in the elements. It was windy. Like, is that?
No. I wish. I hate chapstick because every time I put it on, I touch a bottle or like my Yeti bottle, my mouth cap. I carry that big one around. It gets back onto that, so it gets everywhere. I hate chapstick, but I need to put it on.
Well, are you a chapstick snob, or is there certain chapsticks you like? Like Carmex, I feel like makes it's like addictive.
No, I actually like the Carter family chapstick that was supplied to me like 3 years ago. I got a couple sticks of that, but no, my wife is the aficionado when it comes to the chapstick game. She's got like chapstick every single corner of the house. There's a chapstick.
Are you scented, unscented?
I just put on an EOS vanilla, and it's not bad.
Hey, take that out of your pockets before you do the laundry, or that'll blow up your whole load. You don't want to have a chapstick going on.
You get your shirt out, and there's like little spots all over your clothes.
Be careful. Hey, this is John King. I got to ask you, so I thought Paulie Martin stacked the Gopher squad. His back end on D looked like they were all right out of the league. Mike Crowley making a rare appearance in a celeb game. And then, as I understand it, you guys beat them maybe handily. What happened out there?
I mean, the roster on paper, yeah, it looks scary both sides, right? But a lot of the game, as we know, is played in the locker room, right? I think it comes down to chemistry. And one thing we did before the game, too, was Paulie came in and we passed the hat around.
Yep.
So one of the kids on our team, Turner Chorney, who's Taylor Chorney's son, took his winter hat and walked around to the Collegiate All-Star locker room, and we all paid $20 for the officials that night. But you never know what the Gophers paid. They might have paid like 60 or 80 or 100
Each or total?
Because when we got to the end of the game, it was still tight. I want to say it was 4-2 late in the game. They sent out like 6 guys, and then they had a 7th guy, and they still didn't pull their goalie.
So the referees were letting it slide.
I was yelling like 2 minutes. It was my last ever chance to possibly score a goal, and they didn't pull the goalie.
Oh, that sucks, man. Hey, who stuck
And they had
out?
7 guys out there.
That's not right.
So there's always guys, Al, that bring the West Walls intensity to the celeb game. Who was flying around out there where you're like, geez, Billy G might do an LTR on this guy? I guess that's the wrong phrase.
So there's a lot of takes out of that question, because there wasn't really anybody that was going like crazy hard, and you could throw like Stefan Bayou into that group too.
Yep, for sure.
But like early on in the first period, and I was in the net at the time, Thomas Vanek was coming down on like a 2-on-1, and a former Mankato player, Uriah Hayes, was just barely back checking, and nothing crazy hard, but got under his stick, and it's not like Van was moving that fast, but he stick lifted him. And when Van turned around, he could not believe that someone was back checking him in that game. And I think he did go on to end up getting a hat trick in that game, and maybe he did because he was so pissed off. But there wasn't any issues as far as like, oh, this guy's going crazy hard. I don't think it was a ton of fun. It's amazing some of the skill those guys have. Like Surdich on our team, like the skill he still has. Like if he came out of college in today's NHL, like he would have spent a lot of time in the league. It's just amazing to see how talented some of these guys are.
That's Marty Surdich?
Yeah, Marty Surdich.
Yeah.
And Bucky, I mean, Ryan Malone would still could. I think he could still play in the NHL, like with his body and
Like be a net front guy and use the skill and just still play.
How strong he is, and like he gets up and down the ice in like 4 strides and just coasts. It's like so easy for him.
And there's nobody better in the locker room. That he's literally the Matthew McConaughey of Minnesota hockey. Like he just makes you feel
he came
good.
To training camp, I still remember, this is like one of my favorite stories. He came to training camp with Minnesota the year that they were doing the Olympics. Amateurs were in the Olympics, so they weren't letting the NHL players. It was towards the end of his career. And it was his first skate. We were getting dressed in the locker room. And instead of like bunga pads, which bunga pads are what goes on your ankles to prevent lace bite. So a lot of guys put those on during training camp. He didn't even use bunga pads. He put his skate on, and out of his toiletry kit, which is like a little bag you carry within your hockey bag that's got like tape and scissors and all that stuff in it. He pulls out 2 beer can koozies and stuffs them in the tongues of his skates. And he used beer koozies for his bunga pads. And I was like, that is incredible. I've never seen that before in my life.
No, he is a cool customer, man. He was famous for reaching into your drink and grabbing your ice out. That was a special move that he used to like to do. I'm not sure what I think about that. If you're having a nice cocktail and he just takes your ice out with his hands. But yeah,
just choose it or what?
It was just a disturbance, just to stir the pot, I guess. That was one of his signature moves. First time I met him, I didn't even know him, and it was at a charity thing, and he just looks up and pats the bench next to him, like to sit down and chat with them for a little bit. It was like this, like Zen Mr. Rogers. I mean, he's a cool cat.
You know what I love about these games, Al, is that like you can't catch an NHL player in the locker room for too long, like pregame or postgame while they're playing. but all of a sudden you get to the alumni game and guys are showing up like 90 minutes early, just hanging around. And the hockey day has like these cool trailers set up. It's a tight.
Amazing.
But how was it in there before and after the game?
It was awesome. We got there, actually, yeah, like you said, extremely early, hoping to see, like certain fluids sitting around the room and all that. But there was a tent on the far side of the rink that guys could go to. And then they had like outdoor fires going. And like you said, all the food tents, they had bags going. It was super cool. And then, the high school kids were warming up, no shirts. Like you see like the NFL guys do when they walk onto the field when it's like 0 degrees. So there's one team that did their whole pregame warm up, no shirt on. It's so fun to be out there, the whole atmosphere. I mean, you were out there, you saw it firsthand what it was like, but the way they treated the alumni and the college stars, it was good. We got to get dressed in the construction trailer, so everybody was tight and on top of each other. So there was no hiding from your old buddies that, still wanted to get a chirp in here or there. So that was, that made it really easy to stay on, guys. And
those trailers.
I got there early enough to take one of my college roommates' chair and jersey out already. So I hit his jersey and hit his chair because I knew he showed up, he'd be really nervous already. And then his chair was gone. So like 5 minutes in, I was sitting there talking to him. He's like, chair? And I was like, no, I don't know where it is, man. Why are you missing it? And then he started getting, nervous. So I finally had to say, hey, your chair's back. Let's get his jersey back out.
Those trailers that you get to sit in, I mean, it just changes your whole mindset. I played a game in White Bear like on the Tuesday or the Monday, before hockey day. And something about sitting in that, it's literally a bunkhouse on wheels. I mean, it's the greatest, and you never want to go home. How late did you stay after?
Not terribly late. We went over to the VIP tent for just a little bit, and then guys were dispersing kind of one at a time. They had the Gopher game on there, but they were getting beat up 9-3 that night. We stayed longer probably in those trailers and just hung out and chatted up and just BS'd about the old days. It was funny, the trailer, he showed up and Timmy Stapleton had his kid with him, and he said it best. There was like 5 of us in there at the time, and he turns to his kid, he's like, keep working hard, Buzz. This is where you'll end up. And we're sitting there in a construction trailer.
It's true. Who scored on you?
Vanek. He's the last guy in that whole game. Everybody could have scored other than him. And he was on a 4-on-0 and he didn't pass it.
you were reading pass and he went short side high?
He had a 4-on-0 and then he went elbow and in for a hat trick.
Half slapper? What was it?
Half slapper, high glove, elbow and in. There was like, I'd love to see the camera angle, how much room there was, and to see how close the 3 guys that were with him on that 4-on-0 were. Just
looks him off. Yeah, that's great. I've seen him play in one celeb game before, and I think he's there he's still got it for sure. He's gonna give you a little bit.
Well, he skates every day with his kids at his senior boys, or his boys' senior at Solar High School, so he's on the ice every day.
Yeah,
I'll go out with them sometimes and skate with their goalies, and
that helps.
When Zan, their head coach, takes calls the team in, there's a lot of times he gives it like a little stick tap to one of the goalies, and he goes in on a breakaway.
Yeah, that's awesome.
He still wants a little action.
Well, congrats on the victory.
That's the most important thing. We got to beat the Gophers one more time. That felt really good.
Yeah, you got to beat the Gophers.
Talk to them, and they'll be like, "Oh, you guys are so stacked. I mean, you just retired. Zach just got done. Blah blah blah." But they had like 7 Hobie Bakers on their team.
Yep. No, I hear you, man. Well, I'm glad to hear it was fun. Thanks for joining us.
Yeah, we missed you.
Thanks for the update. Yeah, it would have been fun. Maybe next year.
This is a little different show, Carts. We're having these couple micro interviews. So that was sponsored by Duchanan. I think Duchanan does make a lip balm, as a matter of fact.
They do, and it's big.
Yeah, that's right. They got the giant one at like the hardware.
Nice.
We should probably put.
Oh, look at this.
There it is. It's Duchanan Cannon Balm 140, offensively large sunscreen lip balm, hydrate and defend. We should send one of those to Al, but
you can get, it's so nice. We should talk about this quick. You can get both lips with one pass. That's it's that big.
Yeah, that's a one-shotter, not taking 2 trips. And that's what you should expect. Hardworking products for hardworking dudes, whether it's your hair, your body wash, your cologne, your big-ass brick of soap. That's Duchanan. And related, if you just now you got to watch the Eagles play the Chiefs in the Super Bowl, and I don't think anyone in the world is excited about that. But when you're prepping for the big game, how much can you save at Cub? Well, you're going to need a bigger cart because whether you're stocking up on frozen foods, pantry staples, I'm doing well here, or dairy for the family, or just being healthy in January, they got the protein bars, the shakes, the vitamins, healthy snacks. Cub has you covered. Plus, with essential everyday products, your family will love it, guaranteed. Start the year strong and save big at Cub, your one-stop shop for savings. Hey, when you choose hard like the Wild, do you ever think about choosing hard in your home?
Good question. I choose soft in my home. Although I recently made the mistake of not checking my water softener.
What?
The salt.
What happened?
Well, I'll tell you what. Actually, this is true. Actually,
I just want to clear. You choose soft in your home.
Soft water.
Okay.
I need soft water, but you need the salt. But I usually don't. I don't need that much salt because the system doesn't require it. So I'm not on like a regimen to test it or check it all the time. And it ran out, and I was like feeling my towel, and it was like crunchy a little bit. I know my wife is talking about how her face feels like dry.
No.
I know she's hollering at me. I was like, I don't know what's going on.
So the thing you
checked
talk
it
about
this morning.
every week, and like you're
I didn't
totally
check
on
it. And
top
it's a good
of it.
thing.
You had a mishap.
It's my fault. It's a good thing though.
Okay.
So the system is so efficient that it uses very little salt. So it's like it's like not on the top of my mind like it usually is. But if you want to eliminate those hard water hassles at your house, like I have at my house, and enjoy smoother, softer skin, shiny fixtures, cleaner laundry, like I touched on, and spot-free dishes, call our friends at Aquarius Home Services. They'll give you a free water analysis, entirely hassle-free. You'll have peace of mind. They've got everything you need to take care of your problems. They're efficient. They're good. The customer service is top notch. And that's what I need. I think they actually probably even have a service to set you up to get you the salt that you need so that you can be truly worry-free. Right now, you can save up to 25% on a home solution. And again, you just want to start with your free water analysis. You can schedule that today, AquariusHomeservices.com, earning the right to be recommended. And don't forget your friends at Wild on Sabbath. John King, Ryan Carter sent you.
I love it. Good work. I'm a little troubled that you kind of had your eye off the ball on that. I feel like
you know what I do? You want to know
like
my
this
system?
This is like if you messed up your honey hive or something.
This is my system. I'll buy like 3 bags. I'll put 2 in, and then I leave 1 on the side. That's like my emergency bag.
Yeah, extra. That's like the extra thing of propane for the grill.
For whatever reason, I don't put that 3rd bag in. I need it as like a visual to remind me to check.
Yeah, inventory.
Yeah, or just to check. Oh, I should check this out to see if it needs my bag. And then when I need that bonus bag, I use it, and then I know to go to the store. Well, it was too long in between checks. And I needed that bonus bag before. I had the bonus bag, so I'm back.
Oh boy, between Chapstick and bonus bag, I think we're doing well. Should we actually talk about the hometown professional hockey club for a little bit?
Let's get to it.
How so we got the win against Chicago yesterday, which I think was much needed. Convincing 2 periods and then a little bit of slippage in the 3rd. But I definitely keep looking at the standings, where we got a 10-point cushion. So I want to do a little FANalyst versus analyst. Okay. So I did a little bit of research today, believe it or not. And I just wanted your take on a couple things. So I've been watching the team, and we've had such a good start, and they're doing all the things, and they're competing, and Hines set the tone. Is this a group that needs a catalyst? So some change. I don't know if we can even trade or anything, like something new happens that changes the energy. Or are we just watching a function of a couple guys just got back? We saw this with Eck, right? Eck had a few games where he was kind of quiet. Now he's rounding into his old form. Kirill just got back. Spurgeon just got back. So I'm just trying to figure out if we need to add something to the cake mix here to push us through the door, or if you think it's just going to level out.
So by add something to the cake mix, you mean like add a piece?
Yeah, I mean like
shake it up a little.
Yeah, and even if it's not a big deal,
like change momentum, like Colorado.
Yeah, like who's this guy in our
Colorado
locker room?
decides to go trade Rantanen now.
Yeah, and they're like,
and that's a different situation than the Wild are in, but we should touch on that trade for a little bit and like what that says. But to answer your question first, I think that this is where management and coaching make their money.
Okay.
And it's because you're in the dog days of the season.
Totally.
But you're 50 games in. You know what you have. You know what your team is. You also know what you don't have. But what you have to manage are the mental ebbs and flows. This team has proven that they can beat anybody, and in convincing fashion, when they're playing well and they have confidence and there's buy-in. But that stuff wanes from time to time. And it can be, I think some management groups might in this situation say, all right, I've seen what I need to see. This group needs this, and they add a piece, and that can derail a group as much as it can help a group. So like there's a small margin for error there.
Well, because we have a good culture.
Yeah.
The guys love each other. They play hard. This is a team that could be 300-point seasons out of 4. I mean, it's a good core. But I find myself watching going, and maybe it's just these next 20 games suck. We've done this many years in a row.
From here, it's the next. We're at game 50. It's the next 12.
It's brutal.
So once you hit the deadline, then all of a sudden it's like it's polarizing again, and it's like a race. You're on that final leg. You're running a mile. You're on your last lap, and you're getting close to, the home stretch boom. So you get your kick going, so to speak, in track and field terms. That's where they're getting. But right now they're in the middle part of that race, where it's just like it's a mental grind. So what do they? I think you could look at the goaltending or Gus right now and say he's good. He showed he's great. What he's in is the dog days right now. Can he pull it out? And that's a perfect example. Do you go out on the trade market and say, all right, let's get another goaltender? Do you entirely shake it up? That could be like an emotional move, and I think it could be as detrimental as it is positive. You know what I mean? So I think you don't shake it up. I think you wait and see. For me, this group has proven that they can win. Now, I think they're a couple pieces short maybe from going really deep. I don't think that they're huge or drastic changes like Colorado went and made. I think they're like little pieces. But yeah, so I think to answer your question, I think patience is probably going to pay off here. Like this is part of it. The dog days, like not feeling great about the way you're playing. You look around the league, there's a lot of good teams that are struggling, but this is also at a time where teams that were struggling throughout the start of the year are starting to get good. Like Chicago's better, Ottawa's finding their way. Detroit's starting to win games, and you can't look at those teams anymore and say we're getting beat and oh my gosh, let's make a move.
Yeah, and Brodin coming back would be he's kind of the guy that doesn't get as much attention, but he is so valuable to what we're doing overall. So I got just a couple more of these. So stay the course. So I'm fixated on the playoffs, right? Both getting in and then having success and breaking through.
And that's a luxury of the start to the season. Like how nice is that? Instead of worrying about, and that's what's great for management and coaching too, is they have the flexibility of a good start. But
so what I did is I was looking. One of the things people will say about our team is they'll say we got Kirill. He's an A player, and then we've got some other pieces that are still figuring out. What's the ceiling on Boldy? What's the ceiling on Rossi? And so what I did is I just looked at the other Western Conference teams, and I was looking at scoring. Right, so we have 3 guys over 40 points. Kirill's a bit of an anomaly because he was hurt, and then I was just looking at everybody else that's in playoff contention. And I looked at 2 things. I looked at how many A guys do they have, so big point guys, because we have a pretty big drop-off after Kirill. You got Rossi and Boldy, a little less than a point a game. Some of these other teams, the Jets, you got Connor and Scheifele. Obviously, you got Leon and Connor. But then I looked at how many guys have over 20 points, which is when you're in a playoff series, that's the stuff, when it's in
Those
7 games. So I was like, on one hand, Dallas has no real scorers. They got Duchesne, 47, Robertson, 45. Johnson's kind of underperformed, 39 points. But they got 11 guys that have over 20, right? Vegas, 10 guys over 20. Jets, 10 guys over 20 points. Then you start looking in this next group. The Wild have 7 players over 20. The Avs only have 6, even with the trade. Edmonton only 7. and they have a huge drop-off after the top two. Calgary has very low scoring and only 7 guys, but they took it to us the other night. And then, so the teams that look dangerous to me in the playoffs are actually obviously the Jets, obviously Vegas. Dallas is sneaky better than you think because even though their top guys don't have crazy points, they have crazy depth and a good goaltender. And then the Kings, same thing. Doughty's coming back. They have 9 guys over 20 points, Kopitar being Kopitar. So if I'm playing anyone in the playoffs right now, I want to play the Avs. Despite what happened against Calgary, I want to play Calgary. I want to play Edmonton. But
Yeah, what's nice about those teams that you said that you want to play is that you know how they're going to beat you.
exactly, because they have huge drop-off.
Yeah, you know if you can somehow solve those guys, you win.
Exactly. And these other teams,
You don't.
the Jets and Dallas could deal their hand 10 different ways, same with Vegas, and you just got punched in the mouth by some guy you never heard of.
And that's the other reason why you love Kirill, because I think his game is adaptable, where you might be able to take something away from him, but he's hard to stop. Like, he can beat you on the walls. He can beat you in the middle of the ice. He can outskill you. He can beat you on the power play. And the game changes a little bit in the playoffs. I do think what you're looking for is not necessarily guys that score points either. I think if you're smart, you're looking for guys that score playoff goals. There's a different style, and you'd have to comb through each one of those guys to be like, can that guy score playoff points?
Yeah, like Ryan Hartman scores in the playoffs.
Right.
And but yeah, I'm it seems to be 2 tiers. If I look at these numbers and I'm really kind of checking depth scoring, it seems like there's kind of the Jets and Vegas and Dallas and maybe the Kings, and then it looks like the Wild, Avs, Edmonton, Calgary.
If I was playing devil's advocate, the other thing I'd say is you do need scoring in playoffs. Like, you can't win games 0-0. So you need to score, and you need depth scoring, and you need 4 lines now, because at some point in a run, your 4th line is going to get hot and win you a game or 2 in a series, and they'll be the difference. So you do need those guys to be good. But more often than not, I think the playoffs is about defense.
And I that first 2 periods against Chicago, they had 5 shots, I think, somewhere in the middle of the second. That is wild hockey. Like, when we are just suffocating a team and playing great, we got a couple goals right out of the chutes. I like scoring first with this team. But yeah, I think you're right. I think for us to be successful, it's not going to be a 5-4 game.
Right.
Right. It's going to be 2-1.
3-2.
Yeah, exactly. Or 2-0 or, but I totally agree with you. I'm just trying to, I want to break through.
Yeah.
I think the state wants to break through, and I'm looking at, not that you would ever jockey your playoff position, but there's for sure teams that we match up better against.
Right.
And there's a long way to
They're
go.
the scarier teams in the regular season.
I know, but I'm like
Edmonton
looking
and
at this,
Colorado.
I'm like, what do you make of the Colorado trade's weird? So they just must not have had enough money, or he was older than,
Well,
is it Nekis? Nekis?
Nietzsche's.
So he's a stud. He's got 55 points, but Rantanen had 64. It's a super strange trade in the middle of the season. The Canes end up with
It's a massive trade.
Taylor Hall and Rantanen just going to Carolina. I mean, that's no joke. So it's an odd trade when you're in playoff contention, both teams.
Yeah, and
2 of the 3 anyway.
before I wrap on the other point and get into the trade a little bit, the secondary scoring too that I think is exciting for the Wild Club when it comes about defense is you look at where they're at right now in scoring from their defense. They're tied for second in the NHL in goals scored by D. You got Midzi, Faber, Spurgeon, Brodin, Bogo, Chisholm, Merrill, and Yurchek all have goals on the back end. Like, I think in total they've got 30 goals from that group.
And maybe a little,
30 goals from your D core.
and you might have a Stork drop a Zeev Booyambomb on us
So all of a sudden
in March.
You win healthy. You've got a D core that you love against anybody, and they're scoring. They're a 30-goal scorer right now. That's huge.
Huge.
That's huge. Back to the Rantanen trade. Boy, what does that say? That says a couple things. I think that Colorado just said to everybody in that locker room, this is McKinnon and Makar's team. Rantanen, we like him, but if he doesn't want to be a part of it or his money and dollars don't line up, that's fine. We can still win with McKinnon and Makar. And they ship him off. And Rantanen's 28, Natchez is 26, so they get 2 years younger, maybe a little bit more cost certainty with him. They ship off Rantanen, but I cannot remember the last time a 50-goal scorer was traded.
I mean, it was.
In Colorado, like, you see teams all the time say, I know my guy's about to be a UFA. It happened in Jersey when I was there in 2012. Zach Parise was a UFA, and there wasn't going to be a deal made at the deadline because there was a chance that we could win. Made it to the finals, a couple games away from winning, and then they did lose Zach Parise for nothing. But keeping him got him to the finals.
Yep.
You know, but in this scenario, it's Rantanen out the door. We've got a different guy. This is not your team, though, Rantanen. And the difference there, that was Zach's team, right? This is McKinnon's team, Makar's team. So a little different. I think it also says that, if you're analyzing it from Carolina's side of it, Carolina realizes their window is now. And the one thing that they haven't been able to get in the playoffs is scoring. And they need more consistent scoring. With that, they get Rantanen, who's a little bit bigger. Dude's nickname is the Moose. And a guy that Natchez has, 55 points?
Yep.
And what did
57 now. I think he got a couple.
And what did Rantanen have, 62 or something?
Yeah, he had 64.
64. That's not that doesn't seem worth it to get 8 more points over the course of 50 games, but they're leveling up, and I think there will be a difference. There will be a little bit more polish for them offensively, a little more experience there. Carolina, I get the sense that they feel their window is closing, and this is a chance at it. Like Natchez, you don't want to give up a couple of years in a good player, but they got just a little bit better with some high-end guys, and that made it worthwhile for them. But all of a sudden, the Central, we'll see how this shakes out with Colorado. But interesting trade, really interesting trade.
Yeah, and Colorado is another one of those teams where they're really reliant on 3 guys.
Yeah.
You know, it's very similar to Edmonton with Leon and Connor and Bouchard. Now, obviously, Makar is different than Bouchard, but I had one more FANalyst versus analyst. So I think we're underestimating Marco Rossi. I don't know what it is. We kind of got into it with him when he was our guest. I was trying to turn him into the Rossinator, which he seemed confused about. But there's something about this kid. He's like treated as a piece, and I think he might be an A guy. He always gets moved around. So when guys come back, he gets pushed down. And I don't know. To me, I think he's a power play 1 guy. I think his minutes, he's playing 13 or whatever. And I don't know. I think there's more in the tank there than we know. And I just think he's really good. I mean, I would ride him hard. Maybe I'm seeing something that's not there. That was one thought. And the second is, does this team eventually need to have a 40, 50-point D-man? Because that's another thing I'm seeing on the recipe. So we have this really great depth, but you could make the case, whether that's Faber or Zeev or someone on PP1, like a true walk-the-line Johnny Cash guy. I'm seeing that as a pretty consistent recipe to breaking through, and I don't know if that's Brock. I don't know if that's Zeev when he arrives, but I wanted to get your thoughts on both Rossi leveling up and then a D-man maybe really having a guy you are our offensive D guy.
So two questions there. The analogy I'll use for the 50-point D-man is, do you think that Kirill's having a good year on the power play? Do you think Matt Zuccarello's having a good year?
Yes.
Yeah. Do you think that whoever's running the point is the focal point?
No.
So we had a guy like that, if you recall.
I hated it.
Klingberg here, it was different. It changed everything. Now let's go out to Vancouver because they have the guy you're talking about, Quinn Hughes. And there's been struggle from the other guys, the flanks on the power plays, JT Miller and Elias Pettersson. They've struggled. It's like cause and effect. You have the guy that walks the line, that carries the puck on the power play. He's going to get his 50, 60, 70, 80 points, and it's different. And you think that it all works together and you can share the love. There's only one puck.
Yeah, Carlson was that way too.
There's
in
only one
Pittsburgh.
puck.
It's been awful, but
And sometimes it's great to have that guy. Sometimes it's hard to have, not hard, like that doesn't make sense. Everybody would love to have Quinn Hughes. But there's other things that have to be given up for him to have the opportunity and to get all of those things. And I do think it would be okay I think it'd be good probably to have like a 50-point guy, like your true legit number one power play guy that's silky up there. But it would change the dynamic of the power play in a big way. It could be for the better, but again, there's only one puck, and there's a lot of mouths to feed, so it changes things. I think the Wild would be probably. How does it help 5-on-5? That's for me the X factor. How much would that help you? Like, you could go to Montreal. They've got Lane Hudson, and he's great with the puck. He's electrifying, offensively talented. He's going to be 50 points as a rookie, but can he defend? Can he win? Can he win playoff games? That's kind of the give take. Makar in Colorado he's big. He defends. He kills penalties. I think Quinn Hughes in Vancouver, similar. Like defensively, like he's there too. So I think it would be good. I just think some things would change, and there'd be some unintended consequences if you find a guy like that. Offensively, when it comes to Rossi and him being underrated and overlooked at times.
I think it happens all the time. I think
I
people
do.
are like, oh, he's a good kid, and he had COVID 3 years ago. Or like, I'm like, no, this guy, like, we don't know what his ceiling
You know what he doesn't have is flash.
I know, but
Like
I don't
pizzazz
care.
and flair. Like, if you ever see a highlight reel play, like, I don't think he has like a Sports Center top 10 play.
Could care less.
So when I think, just to illustrate why I think these sentiments are here with that player, if you watch a guy like Boldy, because right now their points are like the same. I think Boldy's sitting at 45 points, and Boldy's got 18 goals. Rossi's at 17 goals.
44, yeah.
44. Yeah. They're like almost identical. Their ages are almost identical.
Rossi's got, but Boldy's got the big stick, the little spin out of the corner.
Which one do you think is better? Right now they're producing exactly the same.
But I see what you're saying.
So, but Boldy's got a little bit more flash. There's more potential. So he's like an A player, like an A+ player that at times will play like a B+ player, right? He doesn't reach his A+ potential all of the time. I think Marco Rossi might be like an A- player, but he is always there. Like Rossi's never touched like the B mark of his potential at all. Does that make sense?
It does, but my only counter to that is, what happens if he plays 3-4 minutes more a night? So even when he got bounced down now, they got Eck on the top line. He still has an assist against Chicago, right? Like, I'm just thinking, I just wonder. I still think there's ceiling there on Rossi.
There's more to it.
I do. I think he's a
I think
point-a-game guy. He might be a more than a point-a-game guy at some point. But he makes the most of the opportunities he gets. I'm saying maybe a few more opportunities.
I like that point. So what is Rossi's ceiling to you? How many points? Is it 82?
I don't know.
Point a game?
For sure point a game. And maybe, if you look at the OHL, maybe he is a 90-point guy. I don't know.
Is he a 100-point guy? No. Not yet. Haven't seen it without that highlight reel fear. I don't think that he's a 100-point guy. Now you look at Boldy, I think he could be that.
Yeah, no, if I had to go to Vegas and bet on who was going to get 100 points, I would bet on Boldy. Yeah. But also, like, it's kind of there's a little bit of that B-side hipster. I wouldn't care. I wouldn't be mad having a 100-point ticket and Marco Rossi's name on it either, because everything we see about him, he's an animal. I think he would, if he's given you saw this a bit with Parise back in the day when he would play on these Olympic teams, or there's certain players that rise to the level of the guys they're playing with. Mm-hmm. And even though Marco looks like a piece, he's not the guy on the Sports Center. I think if you put him in certain situations, secondary assists, whatever, I think he just rides the wave.
Yeah. And the other distinction is, at some point, like, everybody, like, the good guys have their line. It's Kucherov's line, right? Like, it's McKinnon's line. Like, Rantanen and McKinnon play together. Whose line is it?
I know.
It's McKinnon's line.
Yeah.
You can only have, like, at least the good lines have like the guy. So you have Kaprizov's line, and then you have Boldy's line. At some point, Rossi's going to have to be better than one of those guys to have it be his line and be the focal point. Until then, you're the support piece for the guy. Does that right?
Yeah, you're in that kind of. Yeah, I know what you're saying.
Like
You're in that.
Zuccarello's still really good, but he's Kirill's like 8. It's Kirill's line, and Ecker's really good, but it's still Boldy's line, I don't know. I think Rossi has the potential to be a point per game guy. At some point, he just has to maybe make that next step for it to be like, this is Rossi's line.
So I know we all have our opinions, whether we're FANalysts or analysts, but we do have a real fan that we've been checking in for years with. I think some of the DNA of the podcast was built around beer leaguer Rat, who will go nameless. He can't do a Zoom because he doesn't know how, but we did make a call with him to check in on the mood of the nation with Rat. We're going to play that in a minute. But first, if you were trying to construct the ideal fan like Rat, how would you do that? Who would you work with?
Well, if I did have the ideal fan, I would want to make sure that they're protected from the elements, and that starts with a solid roof, good siding, foundation, you name it. Good windows too, so that he could see the sunshine and the good things coming. So our friends at Wild Construction, good thing is they specialize in all of that stuff. They're great with the roof. I had my roof replaced from them. They can do some storm damage. They have all the resources tools on their website. You can go and check to see if you're within an area that had storm damage and when the storm was. You can call them. They can get out there. You've got up to 12 months. They can't get on the roof now. Not a lot of snow. Still doesn't make sense to get up there. But you can schedule an appointment as soon as the spring rolls around. They'll get you taken care of. If in the meantime, the interim, if you have any issues with your windows, with your doors leaky, siding, all of that stuff can be taken care of right now. They'll make it happen. Give them a call, wildconstruction.com. Look them up.
Well done.
Wait, now I got to work on this transition back to you. I can see this now.
Come on.
I almost never go first.
Go for it.
That's tough. So, if you were in construction and you needed a good lunch and some quality snacks, where would you get that?
That was good. It's still your line, right? Like if we were playing together, it would be your line. But now that it's the Eagles and the Chiefs, which is just terrible, and the only thing you're looking forward to is maybe some McConaughey commercials or whatever's going to happen on the day, you really got to focus on what you're going to bring to the big game party, as we say. And I would go with Jimmy's. I would maybe build a replica stadium of U.S. Bank out of celery. Get some carrots for the seats, celery for the roof, and go big. You want to be talked about when you go to the party, and bring some dill dip, bring some ranch dip. Minnesota company, family run. We love these guys. They're going to take care of you. It's a little bit of healthy to mix in with the queso or whatever else is going on. Check out Jimmy's. Don't you be messing with my dresser.
Good work. Bring in our boy Rat, which he's on the all-name team too. He just goes by Rat. Love that.
Kinger.
Rat, you're here with Karts and I. We thought we're about a week late, but we thought State of the Union with one of the biggest bandwagon jumpers and divers, and how are we feeling about the 24-25 Minnesota Wild?
Well, I'm feeling a little better now. Last couple games at home are pretty terrible. Now we're jumping on the road, excuse me, where we had a little more success lately, but we're going to be up against some tough teams there. Got Toronto, they've lost 2 in a row. They're going to be hungry. Montreal's playing huge. Ottawa, they're back to where people thought they would be. And then we got Dirty Pasternak. So I think we're going to be all right there. And then we get a little break, get everyone back, protein, and then I think we're going to be all right.
So your solution is, as long as we're on the road, we're fine.
Yeah, the road's where we need to be right now. Home's not been good, that's for sure.
Rat, how you feeling with everybody coming back all of a sudden? Like, does the game look better or different now that you have, Faber, Spurgeon, Kaprizov back. Like, are you feeling good about that?
I am. Especially with the new guy on D there. We got to get him in the mix. Dermott, he's got a lot of skill back there. Kirill, he's got to get his legs back. I think he's going to show something against Toronto. When you go against the best players in the world, the best players want to show who's the best. So I think he's going to have a big game there. Brodeen's a key. And then Gus, he's got to get back. We only go as far as he goes.
Yeah, how are you feeling about the goaltending? Because Fleury's been good. Gus, he started the year good, but now maybe he's hit what you might call a rough patch. Are you confident in the goaltending?
Yeah, I think that's going to be all right. Fleury's been holding us up big time. And then Gus, he needed that win last night. And like I said, I think he's going to be back here. It's a long season. You go through your ups and downs. We did our downs there. Now it's time to go back up because it's getting tight.
Let's get into the nitty-gritty, Rat. So we just watched Sam Darnold turn into a pumpkin, and all of our hopes and dreams explode in Minnesota. When it really gets down to it, we can be cute as we want, but it all comes down to success in the playoffs. How do you feel about this group staring down another round one? Everybody's least favorite two words in the state of hockey. How do you feel about playoff success with this group?
That's a tough question to answer. I think we need a couple more big bodies. It's been proven the last few years that, we didn't make it last year, but before that once you get to the playoffs, it's a different game. It's a big boy game. And I think we need a couple more big boys, and that's where I'm at with that. And I know Billy will take care of that when the time's right.
Yeah, it's getting close. We're at game 50. The deadline usually comes around game 60 to 62, somewhere around 20 games left. But some in the Central Division, they're not waiting around to the deadline. Did you see the trade Colorado made, the team chasing the Wild for the third spot in the Central Division, trading away Rantanen? You talk about needing big bodies in the playoffs. I feel like Rantanen is a perfect guy for that. Colorado just unloads him. You feeling good about that? And what do you think that says about Colorado, the Central Division?
That was very surprising. I have no idea what they were doing, unless they just can't sign them, and the money's not going to be right for them. And for all I know, Carolina could dump him off before the trade deadline too. So he might be available. That might be something to think about there. But yeah, we need something like that, a big guy, even if it's a rental. Some of those rentals we got a couple years ago, I would have liked to seen a couple of those guys stick around, but I think that's where we're going to need to be. We're going to need to ante up a couple big boys in the front line there for the playoff run.
It doesn't sound like you're threatened by Colorado or anybody else. Is there anybody that you don't want to have to play like first round of the playoffs?
Well, I just want to get there. It looks real good, and now it's like I said, it's tightening up. That game against the Flames the other night, that was a big game. They're really creeping up. They're only like 5 to 7 points behind us, and that's the cutoff there. So just got to get there, and then anything could happen.
How did you, just in closing, you skated outside on Saturday. How did you feel you performed? How was your game?
My game was pretty good. Hand-eye was there. Tweaked the back a little at the end there. So
I saw you leave early like you always do. So anybody that plays beer league, there's a group of guys that just leaves like 5 minutes before your ice time is up.
Why is that?
Rat, why do you do that? He does it like all the time. You just see him during the game skate down the glass and go into the opposing team's bench. And where are you going?
Well, I figure I made it that far through the night. I don't want to get hurt at the last shift.
Oh my God!
I want to make it till the next week. That's the ideal behind that.
Well, it's working for you. So, well, God, you were really You were really prepared, so thanks for that analysis.
I'm positive. Like, this is
Yeah, you
a
seem
good
like
thing.
I would say I'm more worried than you are right now. So I was happy to get a little reassurance from you. Why do you think we're struggling at home?
Up right now, so
Why are we struggling at home? What's your take? I was at the Utah game, and it was you could have heard a pin drop in there. Why do you think that road is better than home for this team?
well, just the camaraderie with the guys. They're not worrying about anything. I was at that game also, and it was pretty. It was like you said, it was quiet in there. I think they were maybe thinking Kaprizov was going to hold them all up there, getting back and Spurge, but I don't know. I don't know what happened there. That was pretty bad.
All right, so I like that. There's a good culture on this team. We got the bunkhouse guys. When they're on the road, they feel more like Cowboys than when they're at home. Putting babies to bed, maybe. Who knows? But
Exactly.
well, thank you, Rat. Love it. Thanks for checking in with us.
Okay, thanks, boys.
Was that the most coherent Rat's ever been? I mean, I think Stalock was more disheveled than Rat. Maybe they did a parent trap, and Stalock's just talking about like lip balm for 7 minutes, and then Rat's like trying to get a job on FanDuel. Like, what happened? Like, how did that happen?
There's a lot of things that didn't add up. There's like a new Rat in town. Like,
I don't know is he wearing a suit?
I know. Did he upgrade the phone? Like, I feel like he still probably had the home button on the iPhone last time we talked to him, and now he's got Face ID going and stuff. Like, the clarity was unbelievable.
And he's just calm and reassuring, and
He
like
knew like he was on it.
I mean, think of this.
No pressure, no panic.
You messed up your water softener, of all people. Stalock can't stop talking about lip balm, and Rat just walks in here like he's kind of crawling up to the NHL Network.
3-piece suit.
I mean, my God, he got a shoe shine today somewhere.
But I think that's what we needed to hear because the Wild
Made me feel better.
Yeah, it feels like they've been struggling, but they haven't. And the league is tough. Like it feels like you cannot take a week off right now because all of a sudden you're comfortable second in the Central, and then boom, you're out. And Central's tough right now, but you look at it, Colorado's in the wild card spot now, I think with like 60 points. The Wild have 62, so they're knocking on the door while they're chasing Dallas. They're 1 point ahead of them.
How much responsibility do you take? Like, I've noticed, I haven't done the stats on this, but I think your record when you're doing a game is really good. I think, like, if we were to look at the last 3 years, and you weren't in the building against Utah, tough one. We had the Calgary game. You're not on the mic for that. My understanding is you're going to have a lot of games in March when we're at home, so you can maybe course correct this thing. Okay. Because I actually think the energy from the fan base is largely driven from not having success at home, right? So everybody goes and watches them on the road, and they do great. And then you circle a game on your calendar. I went to the Utah game. I'm like, the return of the Russian. And then, you get a little bit of a pear-shaped one. But the home road thing is weird to me, and I just hope we solve it when we have the 30 games in March at home.
Yeah, I mean, still great on the road. 18-5-3 that leads the NHL in points. I think they've got a 750 points percentage. But it did feel like the Wild were struggling for a little bit. But you look at the standings, and they're still like sitting right there. 29-17-4. They're third in the Central, fifth in the West. I mean, they're tied for seventh in the NHL right now. It's good.
Yeah, and they've had a lot of banged
Injuries.
up guys, and
the way the schedule started at the beginning of the year, it feels a lot worse than it really is. Like every once in a while, you gotta open the eyes up a little bit and get some different perspective. But if they can get through the rest of these dog days at 600 hockey, and then you hit the home stretch, and where they're at home, I think they solve this home road thing. I really do, and then you're feeling great.
yeah, that's all that matters. I think not getting too high and not getting too low is a message for the Minnesota fan base, because I do it. If we would have lost that Chicago game, I mean, I would have been nuclear. I would have just been I would have been
That game goes
fetal position, crying in the shower. And it started to slip, right? That third period, all of a sudden it's 3-2. I'm like, oh dear God. Even if it would have just been 1 point instead of 2, I mean, I was biting my fingernails, because we looked at that Utah, Calgary, Chicago. It's like, oh, this is set up for us. And if
you drop those,
I know we got the 2 points. We wanted 4, but and And now you got to, like Rat said, Toronto, Montreal, Sens, Bruins, right? That's a gauntlet. That's an East Coast gauntlet. So I hope the bunkhouse is ready to work their way through some steakhouses out east.
Yeah, so as we look through that schedule, we've touched a lot on the injuries. So let's sort of the Bosch Law injury report. Kaprizov this week comes back. Jared Spurgeon comes back. I think there's a bump. We didn't see it. Like there wasn't an emotional bump. I think at the same time, you get a couple of guys that have been having to play elevated, then go back to their role, and it's kind of like and Bill Guerin. And I'm not saying that this was Brock Faber that did this, but Bill Guerin last year said that he noticed a difference from Brock Faber with Jared Spurgeon in the lineup and without him, that he was different when Spurgeon was out. It's like, encourage these guys to be that good regardless of who's in the lineup.
Like he deferred a little bit.
Yeah, exactly. Like, this is your job. This is you get this. And I think some of that happens when you get a Kaprizov back or you get a Spurgeon back. And hopefully that ship kind of rights itself. The rest of the injury report, though, is pretty clean. You've got Marcus Johansson, I think, who's been out since the Edmonton game and the elbow from McDavid, and then Jonas Brodin. You get those guys back and you keep everybody else off. And I think that you're racing right now to the Four Nations when you can get everybody back and healthy. That's actually a question mark too. Is Brodin going to be back and available for that group? So something to look at. But overall, I think the Bosch Law injury report clearing up. Good.
Yeah, I think Johansson was on the ice skating today. We haven't seen Brodin, but Lauko also.
And Lauko makes a difference. Like, I thought he made a difference. Good fight in the Calgary game. Like, shows a little fire, a little spirit.
Was that a Superman punch the guy tried to do to him? It looked like he jump punched him at the start.
Yeah.
And he's a tough kid for sure. And getting these guys back will be huge. I will say the Four Nations, the seal has been broken. Pietrangelo just opted out.
Right.
So I was watching this. I'm like, it just takes one. Once one guy's like,
that's a cup winner. Remember when we talked about that?
Once one GM is like, hey, Vegas is like, yeah, you're going to stick around here. Now, I don't know. All bets are off. We'll have to see how much integrity stays on the lineups here. But I hope that he's the only one that swaps out and we really get best on best. But it's like the All-Star game. Once a guy's like, yeah, I'm not going, it's a slippery slope, because then you got another GM going, well, Vegas isn't sending their guy, maybe we hold a guy that's borderline, right? So we'll have to see how that shakes out.
Let's end with a couple of fun ones. You were skating outside. Tell me about it. How's the outdoor skating experience? We kind of opened it up, but I didn't hear about your game.
So I had a one-car crash in beer league about 6 weeks ago. Very embarrassing. Actually chasing Rat around the net. And I was just kind of whacking my stick at him, yelling at him. And when I turned to come back around the net, I shish kebabbed myself. My blade got hooked on the back of the net, and I was full speed, and I speared myself.
Sorry, I'm laughing with that.
No, I did a full shish kebab. I don't know how I landed. I couldn't skate off the ice. It was in the tournament, the Cougar Cup, where the young guys are back. So I'm already kind of like a D player when they grade them, and then I had to watch the game from the sidelines, and we won it because I was out.
Addition by subtraction.
Yes. So and then I'm in the photo in my street clothes. So that was my first time skating since then, after being in and out of the doctor and walking downstairs sideways. And I scored some goals on the box at Podvin Park, and
so you guys just organized the game outside.
They skate on Saturdays in the morning, actually, the guy who ran it, he got banged up in the boards and broke some ribs this week. So shout out to him at home healing up. But yeah, I felt pretty good. Hockey's funny because it's a lifetime sport. Like, I would say I feel like I'm 70 all the time. Like, I make noises when I stand up out of chairs. I use railings. But for some reason, when you're on skates, it's kind of like you can kind of do that even when you're getting older. I actually felt better on skates than I do walking around. So I'll be there Tuesday making my return, and hopefully it goes well. You also had a story, which I want to hear about. I don't know that there's many turf wars in hockey because it's played on ice, but you had something go down with your youth team?
So I had a busy weekend. I was in Marshall, Minnesota, back for Hockey Day, then back to Marshall, Minnesota for this tournament. And yeah, there was a turf war in the hotel, and this is what the out of town tournaments are about.
Break it down for us.
We're in the hotel with the team that we're playing, and we're eventually playing in the championship game again.
Ooh.
So the girls are sitting in the furniture in the lobby of the hotel, and everybody's ripping around the hallways, checking out the arcade and the pool, and
Crane game.
the girls had staked out that spot as their turf
So this is like clearly a designated White Bear Girls area at the time.
at that moment.
Okay.
And then as soon as there was an opening and some of the girls were left maybe kind of isolated, like one or two left there, some other people moved in. Another one of the teams moved in and started to claim that furniture and that space as their own. Then a turf war broke out, and it was back and forth, and a 10-year-old turf war is hilarious.
What were their strategies to move them out? Were they passing gas? Were they
There was some chirps.
okay?
These are our seats. Well, too bad you can't get them back. And the chirp back was too bad we beat you earlier today, and then
Ooh.
and then they're back and forth.
So they're like saying scoreboard when
Yeah.
they're trying to
And
get
there's more hiding than anything else, like hiding, keeping an eye on it. And when somebody leaves their seat, you go steal it. But that was kind of fun.
That's great. That's like when they're at the blue line, red line before the game, and they're kind of a guy maybe goes a little bit over into the other team and warm ups.
Yeah, good little turf war at the hotel with the competition, Central Minnesota Riverblades, the championship game. By the way, shout out to Marshall and the Red Baron Arena down there. They have like a broadcast feed. So these girls at 10U, they have a big jumbotron in there.
Really?
In the rink, and they get to see live replays. Like multiple times we had to tell our girls, like, hey, you got to line up for the face-off after your goal because they're watching their own highlights.
Oh,
on
my
this big
God.
screen. It was awesome. And then people could live stream it, so family back home were getting cuts. So, like, you get the camera angle of the game, of the goal, and then they'll cut, and there'll be like that celly line through it's like an NHL game. And then it's a replay from top-down view of the goal. Yeah, it's
What?
clip.
Where is this?
This was in Marshall, Minnesota.
My God.
Unbelievable.
What's the name of the tournament?
Battle at the Baron.
Jeez.
So the highlights from this were unreal. The girls were just captivated by them. Like they would forget that we were playing a game. They're just watching their own highlights. But
How did you do in the end?
so in the end, we play the Central Minnesota Riverblades, and we're up 1-0. We score early in the game, and it stays 1-0. I think they're outshot maybe like 30-10, kind of. Their goalie's good, and they get a break late in the game, like a 2-on-2 perfect pass, nice shot, top glove, tie game. Going to overtime, 4-4, run through the roster. Everybody gets a look. They're all panicking on the bench because they're like nervous. And then we go to a shootout.
Oh, it's a shootout.
Shootout for the championship. First shooter scores. Their first shooter doesn't. Actually, they go first. So no goal. We get a goal. We're in the driver's seat. Ice in their veins. They got a skater comes out, buries it, tie game. We go in, hit the post. So now the
1-1.
emotional roller coaster. Yeah, we're 1-1. It's a three-lady shootout. Then we go down, miss, and now we're into the fourth player. They miss theirs. Our fourth player goes in, makes a good move, blacks out, scores back of the net, and the girls on the bench had no clue that they won. So they're like, woohoo, we celebrated, we scored. And we're like, you just won the tournament. So we had to like shove them out on the ice. They didn't know what to do, but it was a good end of the weekend.
That's great. I wonder if in the handshake line there was any, like, it's our couch too. We're 2-0 and we'll take the footrest and the couch, please, at the hotel. Well, that's good. Good work. Got some hardware as well. Did you have any other wild shenanigans to cover before we wrap up?
No, good news is we're going to get Lou Nanny on the broadcast. So I no longer doing the high school games. It's like, it'll be fun.
Which games is he doing?
I think he's on this trip.
So he's doing Toronto and Montreal and Senators?
Yeah.
Okay, Sweet Lou from the Sioux. That's always a syrupy voice to listen to. That'll be good.
Yeah.
And no, I mean, this is we'll see how our, it's like Stalock in the trailer with the boys. That's what our team gets to do for 4 games in a row here. So hopefully they got their cowboy hats on
We're still here.
till it's here.
Let's go.